It was the fall of 2020, and Fort Drum in upstate New York was in a state of chaos. Not only was there the usual training and activity, but the base, and the world really, was in the midst of the pandemic. At that very moment, a small store run completely by volunteers opened up on the base. It was tight, cramped, and catered not to the soldiers and officers who served, but instead to their spouses. Genevieve Kruger, an Army spouse on the base, volunteered immediately and became the store manager.
It was really interesting to me to first hear about what the organization did for other spouses. And I learned a lot about it and saw what the program had been doing for the last 4 years before I had even come on. And I was instantly attracted to it, loved what they were doing.
The shop was Operation Deploy Your Dress, and it had a simple goal: to create a place where women could donate their dresses and have them deployed to other spouses for the purpose of attending military balls and functions. The cost of attending these formal events can be very high, automatically disqualifying some from attending. This store, the fourth location for ODYD, was created to help those people out. And along the way, it became more than just a place to swap dresses.
We had one specific spouse that came in, and she did not feel very comfortable in her own body. And so she didn't really come in with any expectations that she was going to find a dress that was going to fit her, that she was going to like. But she came in anyway and kept an open mind. And when we started to give her a couple of dresses, she would try a few on, and she would get some feedback from not only me and the other volunteers, but she'd get other fellow military spouses who were also in there shopping. They go, "Oh, we like that one on you," or we love that one on you. But there was one particular dress, when she put it on, she came out to share it with everybody else. And she got really teary-eyed, and she said, "This is my very first military ball." And she goes, "And this is the very first dress that I feel pretty in." She was given a gown for no cost at all, but just for being a military spouse.
Operation Deploy Your Dress was started by 5 Army spouses at Fort Bliss in 2015 as a simple dress swap on the base. Almost overnight, the event went viral, and now, 9 years later, the organization has expanded to 13 locations across the United States and Germany, deployed over 25,000 dresses, and saved spouses well over $2 million in costs. In today's episode, our hosts sit down with ODYD's co-founder and CEO, Yvonne Coombes, to discuss the creation of the organization, what the future holds for them, and perhaps most importantly, to figure out how Roswell, New Mexico, and aliens play a role in all of it. I'm Carrie Varouhakis, and this is Army Matters.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Army Matters. And I am your co-host, the 15th Sergeant Major of the Army, and I'm here with my good friend,
Lieutenant General Retired Leslie C. Smith. What did we talk about today, Daniel?
We have a very interesting guest today.
We do?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, she's not a soldier.
She's not a soldier?
No.
Okay.
But she's married to one.
She's married to a soldier.
Yes, so that counts.
That does count.
That
means
count.
she runs things.
She's in charge.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if you meet this woman, in 5 seconds, you'll know how great her motivation and passion is for taking care of our soldiers and their families. She's absolutely incredible. And her accomplishments are way greater than that of the 66th IG of the Army.
I concur. I agree with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Miss Yvonne Coombes. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Yvonne.
Hi, thank you for having me. I love being on this show, and I love being in person because this is the only time that Daniel says nice things about me.
So, I hope your listeners understand. Most people call him Dan, but she says Daniel. That means they have They know each other.
Well,
It's usually in a scolding way that I say his name.
Okay.
That's for our close friends, though, she's right. They're going to be like, that's not how they usually talk to each other. Anyway. And it is an honor and privilege to have you on the show. As much as we joke around, Yvonne, you have done so much as an Army spouse. But before we get into that, let's talk about your background, because I've been intrigued since the day you told me where you were from, right?
Yes.
So why don't you tell our listeners where you were born and a little bit about your childhood, where you were raised?
Roswell's a cool place. It's a small town. It's like 50,000 people. I actually didn't know much about aliens growing up, but my senior year of high school was the 50th anniversary of the landing, and they made it a big deal.
Landing? Which landing?
The supposed landing, allegedly. Is
Of
that what I'm
what?
supposed to say? of the UFO that landed
Oh.
out there. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Okay.
every year they do a UFO festival.
What?
Yes. Yes. And 4th of July weekend, all kinds of interesting people come from all over the world
Yeah.
and converge on Roswell, New Mexico.
Oh my God. I have to satisfy a question I know our listeners want me to ask right now.
All right,
I
let's
know.
do it.
Is there alien life?
I am not at liberty to say there, Daniel.
Well, this is not an inquisition.
This is not
This is a podcast. Give us your opinion.
Come on.
You live there.
Come on. Do you believe in alien life?
I believe that there are different people and things everywhere.
Yeah, we better call the Men in Black. All right,
Okay.
we gotta move on. Okay. Now, did you have any members of your family in the military growing up?
I had uncles who were in the military, I think, before I was ever even a thought to my parents, but not in my life growing up. There's a military school in Roswell, New Mexico Military Institute. And so that was my closest connection to military growing up. And also, incidentally, where I met my husband. So
Oh, really? Is he
yeah.
from Roswell as well?
he is not. He
He
is
is
not.
not.
But he was going to school at New Mexico Military Institute.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were going to tell him you guys met at some alien pep rally or
Yeah.
something.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Did you find it hard when you first became an Army spouse?
You know, I've been very fortunate to have a lot of amazing senior spouses that saw opportunity to guide me everywhere that I've been. There are so many of them, but I will say just immediately, Liz McHenrick, she's been such an amazing mentor turned friend, turned partner, and really shown me what right looks like in so many different ways. And you realize that there's not one right way, but there's many ways to do right.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of things I did as a leader, I stole from other people's great ideas or reversed the bad habits I said I would never do too, because those are always good lesson learned as well.
True.
Yeah,
True.
yeah, they sure are.
Now, we're going to talk about Operation Deploy Your Dress in a moment, but you got to help me out here. Do you remember the very first Army ball that you attended?
I do, 100%. I went to, it was at the time, it was still just Fort Lewis. It was
Right.
our very first posting. We had a 3-year-old at
Oh,
the time.
boy.
And so we couldn't afford a whole lot, right?
Right.
And so I went to this like discount place at the mall that
Right.
had a dress that didn't fit me, but it was cheap. And so I found a military spouse that was willing to alter it down 3 sizes so that I could go to the ball. It was very Cinderella-like, right? I actually met a couple of friends at that ball who
Mhm.
ended up being my friends the entire time that we were at
Nice.
Fort Lewis.
Okay, great. So tell us about why you decided to create Operation Deploy Your Dress in 2015.
You know what? Operation Deploy Your Dress decided itself that it was
Okay.
going to be created. We were going to do a 2-day dress swap. We were going to collect dresses from our friends and family
Okay.
around Fort Bliss. We were going to put them at the community center on post, which we had already reserved. And
Right.
our 200 dress goal was 3,000 dresses
Wow.
before we knew it.
Okay, but let's back up. But why?
Okay.
Well, the why.
Yeah,
I know the why. Dan knows the why. I mean, Daniel knows the why. But tell our listeners
Our
the
listeners
why.
want
Yeah.
to know the why.
So
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
actually sitting in a
Okay.
brigade steering
Sure.
committee meeting, and they were talking about the upcoming ball. And they
Yes.
were asking how we could boost the attendance of the spouses
Yeah.
at the ball. And people were saying it's not that they
Right.
don't want to go. Like, who
Right.
doesn't want to go to a fancy party? It's
Right.
that they can't afford to come. And the dress is a significant expense in order for a spouse to get there. You know, to say $100 that you're going to find a dress is not likely.
Not
it's
realistic,
usually $200, $300, $400 to
Wow.
find a dress, sometimes even more than that. So that's why we decided to do the dress swap.
Okay. How did it become so successful so quickly?
We actually made a Facebook post that said, hey, we're going to do this. And then we got some national media attention from Fox News.
Really?
And they said, hey, we want to do a story on what these military spouses are doing out in Fort Bliss, Texas. And so we did that story. And before we knew it, packages started coming from everywhere. And we would get anywhere from 50 to 100 packages a day.
So you were operating out of your house?
Yeah,
This is
don't
you?
don't tell on us. We might get in trouble for that.
This is you and who else?
Me and four other Army spouses
Okay.
on Fort Bliss. Yeah, we hung the dresses from the support beam in the basement.
Okay.
And my husband said, you need to find someplace else to put this. You're going to collapse this house and we're going to get in trouble.
Right.
So I was actually out on a run and ran past the garrison commander and he said, hey, how's your dress program going? I said, it's okay, except they're not going to fit in the community center. And he said, the gift shop on Post just closed down. Stop by my office and I'll give you the keys. You can use that until you get rid of your dresses.
Wow.
And 8 years later, we're still using the gift shop
That's
on
amazing.
Post.
In November 1944, the African-American 761st Tank Battalion, known as the Black Panthers, fought their way across the French countryside, battling the Germans at every turn. Leading them was Staff Sergeant Reuben Rivers, who risked his life countless times to save his men before his tragic death in combat. Decades later, Rivers was recognized with the Medal of Honor, and AUSA further honors him with its latest graphic novel. Medal of Honor, Reuben Rivers, written by comic book legend Chuck Dixon and featuring art by veteran Wayne Van Zant, illustrates the sergeant's heroic tale, from his rural upbringing to the creation of the Black Panthers, to those fateful, furious days in World War II. It's a comic that highlights the darkness of the war and the feats of one man who sacrificed himself to protect his men and the Allies. You can read the legendary story for free at ausa.org/MOH.
Welcome back to Army Matters. We're with Yvonne Coombes. Yvonne, can you tell us more about the Operation Deploy Your Dress pop-up events, like the ones we're going to do here at AUSA?
Yep. So we don't have a shop in DC. And the kind of the thought process behind that is anybody who's ever been stationed out here knows that there's no great place to put a single shop. If we put it on Fort Belvoir, it's not like people are going to drive to Fort Belvoir to use it. But when you make it a one-day event, people will travel. I remember that first year we were so excited because there were 4 people waiting outside the door. 4 people before we opened.
Okay. And how about the last one?
158 people in one day.
Wow.
In one day, yes. We love being able to do this event with AUSA because, one, it gets family members inside AUSA, and we're able to educate them on what AUSA does for families as well.
And AUSA has incredible leadership.
That's right.
AUSA has
to 2 of them,
AUSA has some solid leadership, some shaky leadership. Just kidding. But
Would you say Daniel? Okay, all right. Yeah.
you know, Daniel is the questionable outlier, but the other ones are great.
So
When is the next pop-up?
yeah, when is it?
Where is it? When is it?
Yeah.
So our pop-up event in DC happens every spring. This year it's going to be on April 13th.
April 13th.
Yes,
Okay.
we're still doing the event with AUSA, but we're being hosted at the Military Women's Memorial at Arlington National Cemetery.
Wow.
And they've been awesome to work with so far. We're really excited to be there and be able to put our dresses up in their beautiful in their beautiful space and
Nice.
bring people into their space and educate our family members on what they have and what they're doing out at the Military Women's Memorial as well.
That's so cool. All right. So you develop this thing out of an idea, right? You're sitting around, you find a need, and you've grown it to its incredible success it is today. What's next for Operation Deploy Your Dress?
I would hope that we could get into more installations and help more military families. I mean, I think it's important for people to understand that we're Army spouses that are doing this, but we're helping family members of all branches of service. This is Army spouses helping the entire military community, and realize that it may be small to you, but it might be really big to somebody else. So don't discredit what you're doing.
Yeah. So Yvonne, places like Rent the Runway are hugely successful. Is this somewhere you'd like to take Operation Deploy Your Dress?
The difficult part of online for us is our dresses are new and gently used. And so the gently used part, it may have been altered. And so we don't know truly how that dress is going to fit until somebody puts it on. So in order to mail it to them, it might not fit them. And we don't want them depending on something to work. And then the night of their ball, putting it on and being like, this said size 8, but somebody altered it down to a size 4, you know? So it's very difficult. I don't know that I see us going online.
And when they come to your locations, and I've been to a few, and to your pop-up, it's not just to come and get a dress. A lot of times there's more to that. And then it's about community. I mean, there's a lot of friendships being established. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, and it's about camaraderie. Getting the spouses to the ball, you know, at the events themselves, a lot of camaraderie and community builds there. You see, 15 or 20 women helping each other pick out a dress and getting excited about, somebody that they've just met, and now they're going to know them when they get to the ball. And so a lot of community and friendship is built in the walls of these shops.
Absolutely. Well, before we leave this, we got to help out Yvonne. But if our listeners out there know people that want to either donate dresses or suits or tuxedos, or they want to help you out, how do they do that?
We have drop-off locations here in the National Capital Region all over the place. So they can go to our website, operationdeployyourdress.org, and they can get all the information about the pop-up event. They can get all the information about any of our other locations around the country, or through Facebook, Operation Deploy Your Dress on Facebook as well.
Awesome. I'm going to be the first in line at the thing because I want to get one of Les's tuxedos.
There you go.
And I'm going to wear it.
It's too big for you.
I'm going to wear it.
You'll need a little alteration.
A little alteration, yes.
Mostly in the length.
All right. So you have done incredible things. And I want to brag about Yvonne a little bit here, too. That's not all she's done. You just had a recently aired game show experience.
Yes. On December 1st, my oldest son, Jacob, and I were on NBC's The Wall game show.
Really?
You can still see it on Peacock. You can still stream it. We are the last episode that aired. So
what?
NBC The Wall from December 1st. I think it was season 5, episode 11 or something like that. Yeah. But we got to go on and have this amazing mother-son experience and win a little bit of money.
So, Yvonne, one final question. The other day when you were talking with our producers, you referred to our good friend Daniel as the Mickey Mouse of the Army. Our listeners want to know why. We know he has other nicknames like Blue Eyes, but Mickey Mouse? You got to help me out here.
To see the way that people flock to him. And the way I said, the reason why I said the Mickey Mouse of the Army is because if you've ever been to Disney World or Disneyland, right. As soon as Mickey Mouse walks out, everybody runs over and wants to take a picture. It doesn't matter if, any other character is out, everybody's going to run to Mickey Mouse. It doesn't matter. And I have been in many situations out in public with Dan, and to see the way that people just flock to him because of the kind of person that he is. And I know I love to give him a hard time, and he loves to give me a hard time. But we were in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, actually at a region meeting for AUSA one time. We were in a back alley pub, sitting around having some lunch. And these two gentlemen walk up and they said, "Oh my gosh, are you Sergeant Major Dailey?" And he said, Oh no, like I get that all the time. People always mistake me for him, blah, 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 going on and on. He's telling people, he's such a good looking guy, whatever. But then, then he says, I'm just kidding, I'm him. And he stands up, he gives people his time. He's willing to pause what he's doing to talk to somebody who wants to talk to him. And I took him to a unit at Fort Carson one time who was doing a family day. And he stayed there and shook hands with and took pictures with them. And it's so heartwarming to see, and it's such great leadership to see that he embodies. And so I do say the Mickey Mouse of the Army, and I know that when you first say it, it sounds a little flippant or that I'm making fun of him. And normally when I'm talking about him, I am making fun of him, but this really is an endearing comment that I say about him.
Well, I'll tell you, Yvonne, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And I just want to tell you, from all of us and our listeners here and the team here at AUSA, thanks for all you've done for our Army. Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate you.
Well, thank you. And Operation Deploy Your Dress really appreciates AUSA and everything that we get to do with y'all as well.
In today's episode, we talked about the value of family in Army life. To continue that theme, we have a very special HUA hotline shout out to share with you. It comes from Miss Soraya Curry of Maryland.
Hi, my name is Soraya. I'm with the great granddaddy and my daddy for their military service. Have a great Army day. HUA!
If you would like to give a shout out to someone in the Army family, leave us a voicemail at 703-236-2914 or email a voice note to podcast@ausa.org.
To all our listeners, thanks for joining us. Army Matters is brought to you by the Association of the United States Army, the U.S. Army's professional association, member-supported, Army-connected. Visit us at ausa.org for more information or to become a member. Your membership helps AUSA continue to carry out its mission, educate, inform, and connect with the total Army, our industry partners, and supporters of a strong national defense. Today's episode was hosted by Lieutenant General Retired Les Smith and SMA Retired Dan Dailey, and anchor hosted by Carrie Barrow-Heckes. Anthony Del Call is the producer and writer, and Andy Bosnack is the supervising sound editor. Ellen Toner is the content editor. Unzinga Curry is the executive producer, and the senior producers are Carrie Barrow-Heckes and LaSharon Duncan. Be sure to subscribe to Army Matters wherever you get your podcasts, and please leave a review. As you know, we love seeing stars in the Army, especially if it comes in the form of a 5-star review. AUSA's Army Matters podcast can also be heard on Reach Across America Radio on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app with the search of the word Wreath. AUSA's Army Matters podcast primary purpose is to entertain. The podcast does not constitute advice or services. While guests are invited to listen, listeners, please note that you are not being provided professional advice from the podcast or the guest. The views and opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect the views of AUSA. For questions or to provide topic recommendations, email us at podcast@ausa.org. I'm LaSharon Duncan. Hope you have a great Army Day. HUA.